Okay, okay. Thomas, what did you think about my new countdown? Was it cool?
Yeah, it was very relaxing. It was very relaxing. Really,
I
calmed
know.
me down. So yeah,
Made you feel like you were in a spa or something, right?
exactly. I
All
just
right.
felt
Cool, cool,
refreshed.
cool. Well, how's it going, my friend?
Doing well. Actually, super excited about some awesome stuff we announced last week. As you know, as you were there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it couldn't be better. How about you? How are you doing? And how was Ignite on site?
Well, Ignite was kind of hectic. Was very good, but first thing first, let's say good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. I see already things popping on the chat. So awesome to see everyone. Um, you know, we're nothing without you, right, Thomas? I mean, this is the community, and this is really kind of our epi place. And we wanted to get together to just kind of go over everything that happened last week, which was kind of, like I said, was kind of insane. Um, so yeah, I mean, today in this live stream, we've done this before, right? We've done this last year when we went over some of the announcements that we had in previous events, and we decided, you know what, let's just roll with that again. Yeah. All right. So in this live stream, we're going to cover everything that all the Azure Hybrid Cloud announcements that we had last week at Ignite. Everything in between. It was a pretty packed week. You asked me how was the event. So seeing everyone in person was just a bit surreal, I have to say. Even though it's not like the Ignite events in Orlando and all these big 40,000 people, but still having this feeling of talking to people again was just surreal. It was super fun. I have to ask, how was it for you? I know that you are remote, and I really missed you there. But how was the experience from Switzerland?
Yeah, it was good. It was interesting to see. We had obviously all these virtual experiences before that, right? So for that sense, it was not that new. But what was different, felt very different, is um, that now you want to see what is actually going on there. I really want to see, hey, what can I see? What are people doing on site? How does everything feel and look like for the people who are there? Because again,
Yeah.
obviously a lot of people want to be there, but it was capped, right? And it was also it's not possible for everyone to go, but you're still interested, even if you're looking remote. You enjoy the stream, you watch what's going on, you want to see more about the expo halls and the hubs and all that. So yeah, that was good. Yeah, and I see as you get a lot of exciting faces. I wonder if someone I see James, I see Chris was there, Steven, Lothar from Germany, a lot of people there. Ramunas, I hope I pronounced that correctly. So I don't know if some of the viewers are actually went there and were on site. Let us know in the chat if you actually were on site and what your experience was there. So happy to learn about that as well.
Yeah, definitely let us know in the comments. I mean, we are here to listen. At least Thomas is here to listen. I'm here to try to absorb everything. Anyway, all right, Thomas. So we had a lot of things, and you and I, even though, like we promised, we didn't script anything. We just know what are the things that we want to talk about. So let's just kind of roll with that. So the first thing, Thomas, that was pretty significant was Auto Manage when GA, and also machine config. So talk to me about this for a second. I see you're sharing your screen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So one thing I'm really excited about, and again, it was not a secret that we have this. It is a big thing, and it was especially big when we announced that it was in preview. It was really, when you look at it, we have these running these virtual machines in Azure, but then our servers on-prem, right? And then you need to some sort of manage these, make sure that you monitor these, that you back those up, and especially for Azure servers, but in general, people are asking, what are the best practices to do all of that? Make them secure and all that, and onboard all these services, and how to configure them. And Auto Manage makes that really seamless and effortless to do that. So I usually, what I say to people, what is this? It's like kind of like, for the Azure side of things, it's kind of like IaaS plus, like infrastructure as a service with a plus, because you even, like, usually we talk about, you need to manage, like in IaaS, you still need to manage your operating system. Now you can still do that, but we give you a automated way of doing that, right? We give you an additional tool which allows you to quickly onboard all of that. Like, it's like, if you set it up, it's like a one-click button, basically. You need to enable. And then it will also do drift detection. It will set up everything. Really great. I'm really happy that we have this. And I when I show this to customers, usually you get a lot of good feedback. What was the feedback, especially also on site? What is your take on it?
So, I mean, I had a lot of conversation around the auto managed piece. Me and Arno from the product group, from the Azure Arc enabled servers, we did a session, like one of the breakout sessions. Big shout out to Rick Klaus, who your former manager, who basically made that possible for this session. Look, I also had a conversation with Matt McSpirit on site. For those of you who know Matt McSpirit used to work for Microsoft. Now he works for Dell. He was in the Azure Stack HCI space, and I had a conversation with him about some of the announcements and all that. When I talk about auto manage, the way I like to think about it in two ways. One, it's really kind of Azure policy on steroids. That's that's really how I'm thinking about auto manage. And the second thing is that, to me, auto manage really, I want to say, is really the direction that we're taking. It's like kind of everything coming together in the context of Azure Arc enabled servers, and obviously this is going to be a big deal, because when we're talking about Azure Arc enabled servers, and even you and I in our private conversations, we're always thinking about how to better tie the story of compliance, of governance, of security, and how to do that at scale. So when we were talking about this kind of stuff, we always, like, before auto manage, in the early days of before auto manage, it was always in the context of Azure policy, and some automation accounts and some scripting and all that. I think auto manage really takes it to the next level, to the level that we think in the product. We really think, okay, so this is what is needed in order for Azure Arc enabled servers to go to the next level. So that, to me, what auto manage is really all about.
It's really cool. Like when you show this, like you show all the capabilities of Arc enabled servers, like you start like showing like how does monitor, and then people are like, oh shit, that's so much. You can do so much. You need to set all of these up. And then you go, well, there is auto manage. And then people go like they see the eyes getting big, and like or they take notes, and like they want to like go and try this out. It is a really powerful tool. By the way, I just realized, I'm not sure if I should do that on the live session now, but we need to update that graphic in our docs here when it comes to Security Center. So we need to fix that.
I'm a fan of Azure Docs. That I'm a huge fan.
I will probably not do that right now, because I don't know what it's going to show. But
let's not do pull request on Azure Docs in the live stream.
But for everyone who doesn't know, like if you see a mistake in the docs you want to fix, there is a little edit button here. Let me quickly go to here, where you then can create a pull request. Obviously, that gets reviewed. You cannot just merge it by yourself, but then you can basically go and edit the docs, and that's probably what I'm going to do. Spend some time later today doing. But yeah, it was absolutely great. I also saw some other people here. Like some people like I asked, like need to watch from the UK. We also had, I think, the satellite events. I know that there was one in the UK, there was one in Germany, and I think in a couple of other places here as well. Also, by the way, happy to see Rabbit, Mashid, I hope I pronounced that correctly, from Iran, Esteban from Spain, Robert basically was, I think, there. He saw our session at Ignite. John Joyner is here as well.
Yeah, I met him in person. Hey, John.
Yeah.
That was fun.
So that is good. Oh, Lisa is also here. Just saw that. She came also in. So if you have any Dell related questions about Azure Hybrid, just make sure that we get that into. Not to put you on the spot here, but no, it is a great announcement to go back to Azure Auto Manage. I'm really happy about it, and I see a lot of interest from customers about this. I was worried that people, I don't know what your thing was there, but I was worried that people see this, oh no, my job is gone now, kind of feature. But I think everyone currently realized that that's not the case, right?
Yeah, it's really not. It's really not. I mean, really, if you haven't tried Auto Manage, go ahead and do so. You'll understand better what we're saying here. This is definitely not a job killer. Okay.
Yep. No.
I think that there is, and you know what? I had one conversation. I remember with this gentleman at Ignite around these type of things, and I mean, look, at the end of the day, technology in this space is such a huge space that it's, thinking that you don't have a job security in this space, it's, to me, it's a bit kind of exaggerating. There is definitely a lot of opportunities to go big. So anyway, just kind of on that topic. So Thomas, I'm sharing my screen here a bit. Let me just kind of zoom in just a bit.
Thank you.
We also, this is the Azure Arc blog. The second topic that I wanted to talk to you about, there was a lot of AKS related, AKS in the context of hybrid. It was kind of a big one. There is the blog post from Abhilasha from our team around AKS, and again, all the hybrid options that we have now. So let's talk about that for a second. Again, you and we didn't have a chance to sync before that, so I'm curious to hear your raw thoughts on this. AKS hybrid, AKS Lite, Windows Server, like there's so many things going on. So let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, absolutely. So AKS, the hybrid deployment options, I think that was probably the biggest announcements we really had. I just shared, like, this was out of Satya's keynote. This was, by the way, the second technology he mentioned was Arc-enabled Kubernetes service, right? Like, or AKS hybrid deployment options.
Yeah.
And we can talk about just that. Right? The first one he talked about was Azure Arc itself. So that's interesting, right? It's like, okay, hybrid, like, it's really like the first thing Satya talks about. I think that for sure is important to mention. So when we look at AKS hybrid, we really announced that you can now get a consistent experience. We have it currently in preview to deploy that on Azure Stack HCI and Windows Server, but then also, and you're going to talk about that a little bit later, I guess, or just in a bit, on Windows IoT, for example, where we get kind of like a lightweight version of AKS. And then there's a ton of other information on this. So, I mean, you could do that before. You can run AKS on Azure Stack HCI and Windows Server before, but now it's really about bringing also the life cycle management. So you basically set up the Azure Arc resource bridge, and then you connect that's connected then through your Azure environment, and then you can go to the Azure portal. You can go and create a new Kubernetes cluster, and when you select that button, you basically get to choose if you want to deploy that in Azure or on your custom on-premises or edge location, for example. And then you get like similar features, and you get like the GitOps and the Flux integration with Azure Arc. So that is great. And then also what you see on that screen already, the hybrid benefit announcement was huge, I think. I don't know if, like, I think a lot of people missed that one.
Yeah, we need to talk about that. That's for sure. We need to talk about that. I think that, to me, and again, a lot of conversations around AKS and the options that we have right now. I mean, AKS, as by its own, it's a really robust space. There's a lot going on in the Azure Kubernetes service space. A lot of innovation, integrations internally, partners that are coming together. Look, there's a lot of things going on. So, it only made sense for us to start expanding on that more and more. It started with the notion of Azure Stack HCI, and then Windows Server, and now AKS Lite, which is basically the deployment options that we have on IoT.
I had some great questions around, like, discussions, I should say, about this, right? So, like, I talked to a couple of customers who wanted to know about Azure Stack HCI and server Arc-enabled servers and all that. And then I asked them, by the way, do you have also interest in like Kubernetes and things like that? And they were like, well, not really. I don't really know what like I would do with that. And like, not about AKS in general, but like in general Kubernetes, right? And I'm like, and then my thing was like, so do you know, like, do you build next generation? Like, do you have in your company like people building next generation of applications or doing application modernization?
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna like, where are these applications running on? And they're like thinking, oh, they're gonna build on containers, so they need to run on a container orchestrator. They need to run on Kubernetes.
Yeah.
Oh, now I get it, right?
Yeah.
So there's a big need for having something like this there. I think that is something. Even if you're an infrastructure person, like if developers create a new app or modernize something, you bet it's either on containers or PaaS services or a combination of those two. I
Yeah.
don't believe that anyone builds still new applications which are based on like traditional servers and things like that. I'm sure there are some,
Yeah.
but it's really about that, right? And so you really build these cloud native applications, and that is what we can enable with AKS Hybrid and, for example, our Arc enabled services as well. So
yeah. And you know, Thomas, to me, and I see a few questions on the chat, or especially around application services. We'll get to that in a second here, but you know, we promise to try to answer as many questions and address as many comments as possible. You know, to me, the AKS slide, the option of doing this on Windows IoT, and I don't know if you saw the demo with the point of sale application and all that, and everything is jello together with Azure Arc. I think to me, this is really really the next step when it comes to our Edge story. To me, Edge was always about when I'm hearing Edge, I'm thinking small footprint, low power devices. That's kind of what is going on in my head when I'm hearing Edge. You know, done a lot of things with Raspberry Pis and Nukes and Androinos and Jetsons and all those stuff. And every time that we've been talking about Edge, to me, I was always kind of missing this option of having some sort of a unified, streamlined way to do containers at the edge. Sure, you have a lot of solutions that are out there and a lot of third parties, companies that are building technologies around that. You know, to name a few, Rancher is doing a great job on this. I also saw multiple deployments out there in the wild using micro Kubernetes, believe it or not, you know, stuff like that. But to me, the fact that we're bringing a managed service like AKS to the IoT space or connecting those two worlds together, that is a pretty significant thing. So I'm definitely excited about that. Let's talk about the hybrid benefits. The hybrid benefits was a big one. I also said that, to me, the hybrid benefits, and you know, please share with me your wisdom on this one. But to me, the hybrid benefits is really significant. And it's funny because I said this to Matt as well. I'm not someone that is categorized. It's like I'm categorizing myself as an engineer, as an architect. Commercial is something that I had to learn. Like it's something that grew on me, and I had to build that muscle. And the hybrid benefit is, you know, by definition, that's a commercial announcement. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So before I go into this, you're absolutely right. The thing is, by the way, that's also what I had like a very good discussion yesterday with someone. Is like, people are like, hey, when you go into cloud, what do I need to like do for my career wise? What do I need to learn, right? And one of the key things I usually bring up is like, get broader in technology, try to understand, like get a good overview about everything, go deep in some topics, but don't be just this like expert in one thing. And one person added, actually, it should not just be that you're an expert on a lot of different technologies. Mm-hmm. You might also need to think about cost and finances and the business value and all that. So that's a good point. So that is where this comes in. And I think the Azure Hybrid benefit makes it super interesting for a lot of people. Like one thing, it existed for a while now, but it now extends a little bit what you can do with it. Mm-hmm. So if you have already Windows Server licenses with software assurance or SQL Server licenses, you get some benefits when you run these on Azure, basically. But the announcement in this specific case, where there were two announcements around the Azure Hybrid benefit. First of all, you can now run AKS on Azure Stack HCI for basically no additional cost if you have Windows Server with software assurance. And the second one was actually on the Azure Stack HCI side. So you get Azure Stack HCI at no additional cost if you have Windows Server with software assurance. Again, the software assurance part is important, right? It's not
Yeah.
just like if you have a Windows Server license, it's like with software assurance.
Yeah.
I think it also includes CSP licensing. But again, when we talk about licensing in general, it's always good to then ask your licensing specialist. Just a little disclaimer here. Yeah, so this makes a huge difference, right? When it comes down to cost, like especially if you already have these licenses, your costs go down, your licensing costs go down in a big way.
Yeah. So, Thomas, before and again, please follow up on everything. We'll put some links in the description below. Obviously, the hybrid benefit is a big one. I kid you not, I had probably around 20 to 30 conversations just on this, either with customers, partners, product managers, some people from the field that were in the event. This is pretty significant. And, Thomas, just going to wrap that topic with a final thought here before we're taking some questions. To me, it's not just an accelerator for the business. It's also something that is really unblocking a lot of people.
Yeah.
I had few people talking to me about the hybrid benefits, and they were saying, that this is super useful because they're stuck with Windows Server data center licenses. They have this massive amount, more than they need, to be honest. And now they can start, shifting that towards the Azure Stack HCI, the AKS space, and all that. So, again, I think it's a pretty significant one.
Absolutely, it's completely unblocking. I think that's a good word you just brought up. It's like, especially for people who say, "Look, Thomas, we would love to, but that means we need to somehow pay now for Azure stuff, and like we're not necessarily like we have Azure a little bit ready. You still need to have Azure, right? That's not the thing, but the costs will like be gone for this. So it's really unblocking a lot of the things to actually go with that technology.
All right, let's take some questions. I saw a question regarding application services. It's one of the, it's one of those topics that we've been, to be completely honest, we've been a bit ambiguous about that. It was just kind of, hey, it's in preview for a while. What's going on? We didn't talk about it at Ignite. No, that. So let's try to put some things into context here. And thanks for the question, by the way. Thanks everyone for for being engaged and all that. We appreciate it. To me, the Azure Arc enabled application services is really an important piece in this puzzle of Azure Arc. Now, up until now, we were in preview. Azure Arc enabled app services, with web apps, functions, logic apps, API management, event grid. Like we had all this stuff. It's already in preview. The thing with that is that, we also as engineering, we're thinking about, okay, so what is the right decision that we need to make? Like what are the things that we need to do in order to make sure that the things that we are working on are actually being adopted? Okay. So the reason that you're seeing this in preview for a while is because we're taking some engineering decisions to make sure that when we will go to GA with the right product and solution, and this is something that will happen soon, but when we are going GA, we want to make sure, or at least going into, let's just say, public preview version 2, which is an evolution sometime of a public preview, we want to make sure that you will actually use it. We don't want to develop things just for the sake of developing stuff. This is not, this is not a science project business. It's really something that we're putting a lot of emphasis on. And this is really the reason why you haven't seen application services going GA quite yet. But I can tell you that it's coming. It's coming soon. Yeah. So
Very
that's what I have to say about that, and I appreciate the question. There. I saw Kai. Hey, Kai. I also saw another question. I think it was Massimo. So yeah.
There's also a comment from Stephen on, I think that was on the Azure Hybrid Benefit, like saying that this is a game changer for Azure Stack HCI, just as you just said, right? Then I see other Stephen on LinkedIn saying hi from Ireland and regarding AKS. And he is basically saying, hey, does that mean I can run AKS on premises on non-HCI hardware? And that's absolutely the case. You can actually run it now on Windows Server. So if you can install Windows Server in either a cluster or even a standalone host of Windows Server. So if you want to try it out, you can basically set up Windows Server download Windows Admin Center, for example, already today and basically install AKS, or you just go to the documentation and do it with PowerShell and so on. And then you had this other thing, which you actually showed a cool demo on for AKS Lite,
right?
Which is another option to actually deploy AKS on premises or at the edge, if you will.
Yeah. I think that again, so the question is, we got that answer. Yes, you can definitely do that. There's actually another short and sweet demo that I did with collaboration with Abhilasha from the Stack HCI team. She's the PM that is just kind of spearheading the AKS hybrid deployment option with Windows Server. So definitely go look for that, or we paste that in the comments. There is a short and sweet demo on how you can go by and do that. So Thomas, before we are taking more questions, let's talk about more things that happen, and then we'll go another round of questions. We'll let the folks there to to just kind of get their heads together around all this stuff. What is the next thing that you were excited about?
So
that's the demo. Yeah, that's the demo. Yeah.
So let me quickly, because I have it just on the tongue. I don't want to make people learn. There was also.
I also like the fact that I've been upskilling my or uptaking my thumbnails game. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you if this is something that is working. I have no idea. I'm just playing around. I'm just playing around.
One thing actually,
making poses to the camera, which is funny, but fine. Yeah. Sorry.
One thing I was super excited about was our announcement, which you worked on tremendously as well, and parts of our team also helped with that. Yeah. And that was the Arc box announcement for HCI, and also the Arc box announcement for Data Ops, which both of them, I was super happy to see. So maybe you can tell us a little bit more about these.
Yeah, I can definitely. Let me take it the screen here, Thomas, and just kind of play around with that. I'll zoom in just a bit. So maybe to give some context to folks who missed that one. So we came up with, or if you've been following what I'm posting, I posted 3 announcements. Basically, we have the new Azure Arc enabled SQL managed instance landings on Accelerator. We have our box for Data Ops, and we also have HCI box. So let's talk about that. First of all, the landings on Accelerator. You and I, Thomas, we also had the enablement show. We talked about that. Geez, we're talking a lot. always amazed by that. Anyway, so the accelerator is really part of the evolution of us bringing more knowledge around Azure Arc. Look, Azure Arc is a really interesting space, right? It's so big. It touches so many platforms potentially. People use it in very different ways. It's a wildfire sometimes. So we need to put things in the right context. In order for us to do that, we need to create like good collateral. So about, I don't know, a year and a half, maybe almost 2 years, no, maybe a year and a half, something like that. We started to build the accelerators as part of the cloud adoption framework. We started with Azure Arc enabled servers, which is, let's just kind of zoom in just a bit. We started with Azure Arc enabled servers, then we moved to Kubernetes. And the last one that we released at Ignite is the Azure Arc enabled SQL managed instance landings on Accelerator. So for those of you who don't know what this is all about, this is really our way to put our engineering stamp and field stamp in terms of validated recommendations and design considerations and reference architecture diagrams. And I'll talk about the implementation in a second, on top of a specific technology, right? So we have that across the board, right? And the accelerator really, this one is really focusing on Azure Arc enabled SQL managed instance. So we have 9 critical design areas, as you can see. We have identity and access management, network storage. You can see all that on the screen. And each one of those is covering all the areas that are part of that specific critical design area, right? So you have specific design consideration and recommendation and next steps when it comes to network, when it comes to storage, when it comes to identity and access, business continuity, stuff like that, right? So everything is bundled inside the landings on Accelerator. So a lot of effort is going down into those paths. For those of you, by the way, just kind of maybe share some sausage making here. It takes about, I don't know, something around 6 months end to end to build these accelerators, from the moment that you start the planning all the way to the execution, building the team, putting everything together. It takes about 6 months, and we really wanted to release that at Ignite because we also knew that as the Jumpstart team, we also want to release RBox for data ops, which is the second topic. So every time we are doing those accelerators, we actually took the decision to build the implementation on top of the Jumpstart automations, because Azure Arc, unlike native Azure services that you can go and build on top of Azure, and you have the Terraform templates, you have ARM, you have everything that you can go into those accelerators and build. You can basically spin up an entire environment. But Azure Arc is a bit weird, because you need to have resources or IT assets outside of Azure in order for you to actually experience Azure Arc, right? So what we wanted to do is we want to provide a simulation for that, because we can control what you have and what you don't. So the RBox is really part of our products in the Jumpstart. It's our flagship products in part of the Jumpstart, and this is what the implementation is based on. So every accelerator, we build those sandbox automation in order for you to go and experience the accelerator. So you can see here that I'm in the Azure Arc Jumpstart, and here under Jumpstart RBox, we now have a new option, which is Jumpstart RBox for data ops. And Jumpstart RBox for data ops, I'll zoom in here. This is really a very robust automation. It includes everything that is SQL managed instance. It simulates a DR between two sites, backup and restore point in time, Active Directory, authentication and authorization. You have everything configured for you. We have a sample application that actually you can play around with data ops, with RBox data ops, so you can experience all this stuff. And on top of that, you have that unified layer, right? Grafana, Azure Monitor, Log Analytics, tagging, like all those stuff are built on top of that. So that's the second announcement. What do you think about that before we're talking about HCI box here?
Yeah, I'm super excited. Like this, again, you cannot really you should not underestimate how important these solution accelerators are, right? For customers to deploy this and test, like in this case, like the accelerator itself, like testing it out, but also getting guidance to actually implement that in a production environment as well. Like this, the combination of the two, having that sandbox as well as like the guidance, I think is a very powerful and important thing to have, because as always, when you do cloud computing, doesn't matter if it's actually in Azure itself or if it's like in a hybrid or multi-cloud environment, you need some guidance and some best practices. And you need to have some playground to try it out. And those solution accelerator really help on doing that.
Yeah. We've been hearing from a lot of customers, our own field partners, about their usage of RBox, and we see that with the numbers, in the backend, in telemetry, definitely a popular solution. Which brings me to our next solution that we came up with. That's HCI box, which Thomas, you also were involved in that. And HCI box was really, I had few people reaching out, talking to me about HCI box, which was so fun to see, because as someone that is really keen on teaching, enabling, providing content, and you and I, we've been creating so much content in the past almost 3 years now around this space. When people are using it, it's really where, how we like to say, the rubber meets the road. This is really how we know that what we are working on is actually being used and is actually working. So when we started to think about the Jumpstart and how can we bring more HCI to the picture, the Azure Arc Jumpstart started with no HCI in mind, because back then it was still really very much in diapers, I want to say. I think that for us, this evolution of bringing HCI box to the masses is really a significant step, because, and I saw a comment, I think, Stephen, thank you for that comment. This is one of those motivations, with supply chain being so hectic post-pandemic and still with the pandemic. And in order for us to provide people with a way to learn a technology, but a technology that really requires you to have some blinking lights underneath your desk, in order for us to provide that without you being constrained to having some sort of hardware, and for you to get going, at least get going, HCI Box was really a big motivation. So that's what we did. So for those who don't know, HCI Box, it's really the same experience that you're getting with our box, but just for HCI. So initially in public preview, 2-node cluster being spin up for you in a nested virtualization fashion. You can see that on screen in nested virtualization fashion. You're getting AKS on Azure Stack HCI, Azure Arc, everything enabled, Resource Bridge, Image Gallery, like Active Directory, everything is just kind of baked in for you to deploy. So HCI Box. I see a lot of comments, a lot of questions coming in. Yeah.
Yep, a lot of good stuff. A lot of shout outs to how great the Azure Arc Jumpstart is, and it really helps, which is great to hear. Then speaking of HCI, I think another big announcement was around what we have for Azure Stack HCI. I think that kind of with all the awesome AKS stuff also got a little bit again, there's so much happening, right? But I have two, I have now, I quickly did a big poll on a YouTube channel to say, what are the biggest announcements, what do you our audience think is. And currently the clear winner is Azure Hybrid Benefit, followed by the Azure Stack HCI announcement. So should we quickly talk about a little bit what all the stuff which is new for Azure Stack HCI?
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, so perfect. If you can put up my screen, you will also see, by the way, I found that always interesting. So there's a blog post covering that, and I zoom in even a little bit more about what is new for Azure Stack HCI at Microsoft Ignite 2022. Because it's not just about the operating system of Azure Stack HCI, it's really about what else comes to mind there. So this great blog post here, obviously again covers the software assurance benefit, or the hybrid benefit for customers with Windows Server licenses with software assurance. And then here, by the way, that's also interesting. How do you activate this? You actually go into the Azure portal, and then you can enable that hybrid benefit. And that is basically, you can see here then.
It's cool that there is a very neat portal integration to that. I mean,
yeah, and you can see here then $0 per physical core. So you can basically go and activate that. The second big thing, again, I will not discuss the order of the features in the blog post, but is actually this Arc-enabled VM management. So one of the benefits we always talked about when it comes to Azure Stack HCI is that integration with Azure. And you can do a couple of things with that, for example, monitoring and other things. But I just put out, by the way, I just went quickly into the portal because I have an Azure Stack HCI cluster here. I want to show you something.
All right.
So I have a single node cluster here, which we announced a while ago, that you can do that too. But now there's a couple of things. So first of all, you can see here, you can now get these additional features and help you to deploy Azure Auto Manage for Windows Server, for example, as well as the Azure Virtual Desktop. And that has some prerequisites. And I was thinking, what are the prerequisites of doing that? Okay. And it's actually about the VM images. So before that second preview of the VM lifecycle management, it was really that you needed to create your own image on Windows Server or Linux or whatever operating system you have, store that on the cluster, and then that you can actually go out and deploy that directly from Azure using ARM templates, using Bicep, using the portal. Now, what in the new thing is you can now go, when you go to add a new image, and again, let me zoom in here a little bit more. You can now say, hey, I want either deploy that from local, as you could have done before, or you can put an image on Azure Storage Account, which is super handy when you have different locations. Or you can now take an image from the Azure Marketplace. So we have a couple of images from the Azure Marketplace, which you then can pick. And so if you go here, you can see here, there's a couple of them which are currently enabled. So especially the ones which are interesting for these scenarios, for example, for Auto Manage, you get the Windows Server 2022 Azure Edition, which brings some additional features when you combine that, for example, hot patch and so on. So you can run that not just in Azure, but also now run the same image on your Azure Stack HCI. And then you can see here also this Windows 10, Windows 11 enterprise multi-session images. So those are for Azure Virtual Desktop, and they usually were only available in Azure. Now you can also go and deploy that for Azure Virtual Desktop on Azure Stack HCI on premises.
Beautiful.
And that, like with the marketplace syndication, just a beautiful feature. Beautiful is the absolute right word, Lior. Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, one comment that I have around the VM management piece. You know, one of the biggest things that when I'm thinking about Azure Stack HCI, and I always have my days at VMware in the back of my head, and we were trying to build solutions that are really, stitching solutions together and trying to make it work in a cloudy fashion. Now, the thing with self-service and self-managed platforms is that the reality is that it's impossible for that to be sustainable and consistent over time. You might be able to do, 1 iterations, 2 iterations, but at the end, in order for you to maintain this, you need like a huge crew of people in order to get the lights on and keep the lights on and make sure that everything is clicking. When I'm thinking about what you just showed me, I can't help thinking the fact that we are governing those images. That's one. So you don't have to worry about that. And you also have, this auto manage piece that you can plug into that. So if you need, obviously, if you're building extra governance, or you have your own thing going on with those images, now that is something that you can put together. And to me, the fact that everything is integrated in the portal, which means that you also have the APIs, you have the CLIs, you have the partial models, everything is baked. To me, that means that this is really self-service. This is really what on-premises HCI, not Azure Stack HCI, hyper-converge is all about. And I think that this is something that will definitely bring a lot of customers to the table. Just wanted to put some comments around that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I get what you're saying. Like this consistency is like a lot of customers I talk to is like consistency is one of the key things. That's what one of the main motivations is. They want to do things differently because it runs somewhere else, right? They want to do it in the same way. Like it doesn't matter if it's about like VM deployment, if it's like about like app deployment on Kubernetes or something like that, or PaaS services. They want to have that some sort of a consistency and do it in the same manner. And I think that's one of the things. Then, obviously, there was the 2022 H2 feature update announcement. So that is now GA for Azure Stack HCI, and you can basically download that since last week over the air update. You basically just patch your systems and basically go out and get this update. There are a ton of quality improvements in that and additional features in there as well. But in terms of time, I want to also quickly go down and talk a little bit more. What else we have here? Obviously, we talked about the hybrid deployment options, the SDN integration in that for AKS on Azure Stack HCI is there. Is I think GA.
Mariner OS, that's another thing that is part of that.
You want to quickly mention that what that is about, like consistency between Azure and on-prem, for example.
Yeah. So when we're thinking about AKS, one of the biggest challenges or the goals or the requirements, call it whatever you want, is to reduce the footprint of the image that is for the nodes, for the AKS nodes. And it's not just about reducing the image footprint, it's also about how do we as Microsoft governing the development process and the security patches and really just end-to-end governance around that image. So Mariner CBL, that's basically an operating system, like a Linux operating system that we in Microsoft we developed in order to make sure that we're able to provide our own image, our own flavor that can be used at the back end in the underlying infrastructure for those Kubernetes nodes. And in terms of consistency, you can get that either on AKS today in Azure, that's in preview, you can do that. And it's also the default image for AKS Lite, right? So if you go buy and deploy AKS on Windows IoT, that's what you get. You're going to get Mariner CBL. And that's also part of the demo, like which showed that consistency between those two images. And the reason that it's important, it's not just about, hey, we have this, it's the same. It's also one last thing to worry about when it comes to the patch level of those images, which is something that a lot of customers identified as a challenge.
Absolutely. It's a very good point. This is something like what comes up a lot. It's like, okay, well, we have these Kubernetes, but we need to take care of the host OS, and we need to like make sure that they're up to date and so on. And by delivering like that with a service like AKS on-prem, basically on the hybrid deployment, you'd really make that way easier for the customer and way more secure as well. Now, again, I want to give a little bit of chat time, but like one more thing. There was a one more thing announcement.
There's always one more thing.
And this was really about also giving the customers a choice of getting a HCI integrated system by Microsoft, right? So you're not just like, we have this great OEMs from HPE, Dell, Lenovo, and data on a ton of others. Like I think there are 30 or 40 or maybe more even, which really built these nice solutions. But then we also have like some customers who want to get it kind of like as a OpEx model. And so that is where we basically announced the Pro 2, basically, which you can order from the Azure portal, right? So that is also an option now. If you want to have Azure Stack HCI, you can also do that as well. And that was kind of like...
What's the GPU horsepower on those? Like, are we talking... Oh, that was NVIDIA A2s. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty significant. I mean,
yeah. I mean, you can also that's a good, absolute great thing. But then there's also obviously like if you look at the OEM offerings we have, we can even put even more powerful stuff in there as well, right? So there is definitely like a good space for everyone there. Like I mean, it's a very narrow solution basically. Well, not saying narrow, but it's a fixed solution what you have here, but if you want to have need for more flexibility, again, we have all these great OEMs doing all these fantastic work. So we definitely, there's way more room. Like if you want to go the route with smaller clusters or even larger clusters, then that's for sure we have that offering as well.
You know, definitely, it's very obvious that both Azure Stack HCI and AKS got a lot of love at Ignite. That's for sure. And it's great to see. It's cool. I think that it's a space that has so much potential for so much innovation. And you know, you and I, Thomas, we're talking to a lot of customers and seeing a lot of use cases around that. I saw the customer story on Cole in Australia with the stores. You know, definitely go, you know, we'll put some links, but definitely go check those out after the stream. We had a customer that is doing this on cruise ships. I wasn't saying that just for saying that. That's a real thing. And really, there's so many things that are happening in this space. I'm both scared and excited because I know the amount of work that is about to hit me in the face. But yeah,
it's
awesome.
it's so funny. I had a conversation with a couple of people on like which are not do a lot of work with Microsoft. They do a lot of work with others and other stuff as well. And they were kind of like asking me, yeah, is Microsoft still invested in this hybrid thing? And so I'm like, I had like this huge smile on my face because I did not know where to start. Because as you can see, it's even for us hard to keep up with all the announcement, all the work which is going on. And like the teams who are doing all this fantastic work, right? They're like the conversation we are having with our teams and like it's just like mind-blowing what these teams are doing and what we are working on. So
sure.
Really exciting times.
So Thomas, before we are getting just maybe a couple of questions that are on the chat, I wanted to show you something here. So I'm sharing my screen here, and this is a completed deployment of HCI Box. This is what you're getting on the in the portal. Let's just kind of save some real estate. I'll zoom in just a bit. So you can see that you're getting an HCI cluster. right?
Yep.
You're also getting a couple of images in the gallery, right? That's already baked in. Obviously, custom location, which is a fundamental building block for do Azure Arc enabled Kubernetes or Azure Arc enabled services, and the resource bridge, right? These are all the disks that are part of the single VM that is used throughout HCI box for the nested virtualization. These are the two AKS clusters that you're getting, and the workload cluster, which is the important one, right? The first one is the one with this huge GUID. That's the management AKS on Azure Stack HCI. This one is the workload cluster. Here's the resource bridge. And the thing is that this thing is also already registered in Windows Admin Center. We forgot to mention that. Right. So automatically, this is already there. So again, just wanted to provide some context here, making sure people understand kind of what we build here. So yeah, let's Thomas, let's take some questions. I saw a few things here. Anything interesting?
Yeah, there's many interesting questions. I don't think we will get through all of them. Chris basically asked if there is a PowerShell module or if there are PowerShell commandlets. I guess he referred to manage basically Arc-enabled VM management. So the things I just showed basically in the Azure portal, which can be done obviously through Resource Manager. I don't believe we have a PowerShell module for that.
I don't think so quite yet. Yeah.
But I'm not 100% sure, and like it's definitely an interesting part. Like, I mean, we always for those who to explain this a little bit, we always have when you can do something in the Azure portal, like that doesn't mean it's just the portal. Like everything the portal is just one of the experiences we are offering. Yeah. I always basically say like that with a little bit of a smile, but it's actually true, right? So portal is one experience, but then you have PowerShell, for example, Azure PowerShell, or you have the Azure CLI, or you can use like ARM templates and then Bicep, which would do the same, like go over the ARM templates. And then you could also use direct APIs to do these things. So if you want to work with that, you can do that as well. So there is always like, especially when a service is preview, there's like not all of these things are available. Like usually the APIs are obviously available because they need to be. ARM templates are usually available because that's just the way it builds on. Bicep, usually as soon as ARM is available, is Bicep usually also available. I don't want to make any promises, but that's usually how it works.
Yeah.
And then the portal is sometimes also like sometimes you have features which do not show up in the portal, right? So the portal sometimes is a little lacking behind. Then you have like maybe sometimes you have a CLI experience first, or sometimes you have the PowerShell experience first. So it really depends a little bit, especially when a service is in preview. Those are all the things we want to enable. And usually the teams are also very much looking for feedback to like, hey, what do customers want to use in this specific case, right? So if there are a lot of people want to use the Azure PowerShell module to manage this, then if we get that feedback, that's also then getting prioritized as well.
And Thomas, it's a good segue to something that I also wanted to talk to you about, and also maybe share with the community here as we are having this conversation and close to wrapping up this this fun live stream. I hope it was fun, Thomas.
It is exciting. It's always fun to talk with you.
It always is. So I think it's a good segue what you mentioned around the product is asking for feedback and all that. So it's no secret that you and I are very much into the weeds of building the communities and working with a lot of people around those communities. We have few things already in the back burner, things that we're working on, but there's also about a month ago, something like that, we kind of restarted the process or the platform of the Azure Arc public community. For those of you who've been following this space for a while, you know that we have like a monthly meetup with with the product managers, the people that are actually building the product, coming into this and each giving updates on what happened in the past month. So we started to do this about 2 years ago, and it was more on a mouth to ear basis. It was people from our own field bringing customers, or just community members catching up on all the news and everything and just joining. But moving forward, Thomas, right, we're moving into a more of an open kind of open platform or open source platform for those communities. And obviously, we'll share the link to how to join that community in the description below, so you can check it out. It's really about bringing everyone together. Since we opened the community meetup to the public, or started to be more vocal about this, or more out there in the open, we saw a lot of people joining, because a lot of people didn't know about this, which is mind-boggling, but that's all good. So moving forward, we're going to have the monthly meetup. This is going to be published in GitHub. After that, we have a dedicated GitHub repository, open source. You can get the decks, you can get the recordings, everything. We also, as part of the Jumpstart YouTube channel, we're also going to publish the recordings for those community meetups, so people can go and check it out. Thomas, I think that, and you and I, obviously, we've been on those community meetups for ages now. What are your thoughts around this? Like, just kind of, bring us home with the community and everything that we're doing.
I mean, as especially the work we are doing, especially in the work where everyone is right now, in general in cloud computing, like being in this community is like a very important part, right? Because this helps us to connect people who have similar challenges, who have similar things to do, and share thoughts and discuss things like challenges we have, and like discuss also solutions we have, right? And so I think that's absolutely critical, not just for Microsoft, for us, but also for everyone who is working on this. And we have a really, really exciting community when it comes to Azure Hybrid, right?
Yeah.
And I think with the effort you and I and others are doing, we really want to bring that together and give that even more attention in the future as well. Like we really want to help finding or solving that appetite, basically, giving people the things they want.
The right nutrition.
Yep, exactly. So now, again, make sure we will share the links to that, to these communities. We also have some very, very cool announcements coming very, very soon, especially for those people who are doing a lot of work in the community, without mentioning too much right now, but we will have that soon.
They have a certain acronym,
Probably. Yeah. Again, we don't let the cat out of the bag yet, but
right.
Again, it's also a big thank you. Obviously, I see a lot of people also on the stream. Like,
definitely.
I'm super overwhelmed with all these people doing all this exciting work. And actually joining and talking and discussing. I can also see people in the chat answering each other's question, which is fantastic, right? It's again, I'm looking forward to also have probably some other people like from the community on these streams in the future. I think that would be a great thing to have. Let us know what you think, and share some feedback with us as well, what we can do better, not just about the product, but also to enable you to be more successful.
Yeah, for sure. The next community meetup is going to be next week on Tuesday. So that's going to be the next one, 8 a.m. Pacific time zone.
So it's already a fully packed and awesome agenda.
It's already It's already packed. Obviously, this is the community meetup that is post Ignite, so you can expect a lot of conversations around that, and product managers coming together to talk with the community about this. So Thomas, let's wrap things up. Final thoughts before we're moving forward?
Yeah, just being excited. Just like, hey, this is only the beginning of what is here to come, right? You and I know that there's a lot of people working behind the scenes right now on some other cool stuff. I'm just be excited what the future holds. And thank you again for everyone who was on that call.
Obviously, thanks everyone. I can definitely plus one to that. Make sure to like, subscribe, also Thomas channel, right? thomasmaurer.com. That's .Switzerland. I don't know.
.ch. thomasmaurer.ch is the website, and you can also find my YouTube channel.
My apologies. No
worries.
So make sure to like and subscribe. Let us know, even after the stream, let us know in the comments what's up. What is working for you? What is not working for you? What would you like to see more of? Really, let us know. Yeah, Thomas.
Let us know if we missed something. Like
that, if we missed something, that's for sure.
Be something interesting too, because again, there was so many things.
And it's not like you and I are hiding under a rock. I think that people know how to reach out to us. So make sure to do so. Thomas, I guess until next time. I'm officially still on PTO, for those of you who don't know that, but I came to do this because I love the community. I love the work that we're doing together, and obviously never miss a chance to talk to Thomas. Thomas, I guess I'll see you next week. Thank you, everyone, for joining the live stream. Always a pleasure to see the community coming together, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
Thank you very much.